Ellen, how the hell are you?
I'm good, Andy. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We're still saying it. Where are we now? The 20th of January. But look, we haven't seen anyone, so we were always saying it.
Yeah, well, that's it. And to be honest, half the time I don't even know what day it is at the moment. You said there a second ago that it was Wednesday, and I had to actually remind myself, yeah, that is actually true. All the days just roll into each other at the
Yeah,
moment.
it's like one big macabre Christmas. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So look, but even with all that's going on, this one thing doesn't change, and that is that I ask our guests at the start to tell us a little bit about themselves. So why don't you work away?
Yeah, okay. My name is Ellen. I'm from Tipperary. I have been living in Dublin for the last 6.5 years. I moved up there after college to do, I did business and marketing in college, and then got a job in a corporate company up there when I finished. Decided after a couple of years that it wasn't kind of for me. And decided to do a PT course in the National Training Centre in Dublin. And then after another little while, decided that I would try and become self-employed in the personal training industry. And I suppose, 3 years later, here I am. Myself and my partner, just after moving to Wexford. The plan was that we'd be starting up a gym down here, and then all of the COVID stuff happened. So at the moment, I'm doing online training with clients from Dublin, and any clients who basically, well, I suppose it doesn't really matter where you live in the world at the moment. Just trying to keep people going, keep myself going, same as the rest of the country, really.
Yeah, 100%. So in terms of that whole process, I'm fascinated by how people kind of get into the industry, and I do want to come on to kind of your transformation or your transfer from the corporate world into health and fitness and personal training. But were you always kind of sporty growing up, or was this something that came to you later?
Was I always sporty? No, definitely 120% not. I definitely, like, as a kid, would have been into Irish dancing and played a little bit of football in school. Did the PE classes, hated them, dreaded them, tried to get out of them at any chance I could. But I think for me, what generally held me back when I was younger was I would say quite overweight, or quite fat at the time, and I would have let that hold me back more so, and kind of think that because of my size or because of how I look, I couldn't do certain things. And then I suppose when I was thinking of going to college, my first choice was actually sports science. That was what I wanted to do. And there was this class course in University of Limerick that I applied to, and that I got in the first round of offers. But once I got it, I freaked myself out, and I thought, still, I'm too fat for this course. I can't do it. People will laugh at me. I'll be last in all the fitness tests, blah, 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 blah. And instead I went the other way. I took a year out to do a PLC course, and then I reapplied through the CAO to do a business and marketing course after that. So I definitely would say I wasn't always sporty in the traditional sense, but I did always have an interest in health and fitness.
And that's something that we kind of, and we can come on to that later on because I know you're big on it, is how we talk to ourselves and how society sees that sort of thing, and there's some massive problems there that we all we can do is keep fighting the good fight,
It's gas though, because when I look back at pictures of myself on Facebook, or I really wish I had never deleted my Bebo account, because there would have been amazing photos on there. But like, I wasn't in any way, shape or form fat. In fact, I was probably too skinny, but it was just a thing that I had in my own head, and that I wouldn't be accepted, or I'd be, I suppose, marginalized because of how I looked or how I saw myself at the time. But happily, I'm happy to say that I've kind of got through some of that. Like, I think definitely for a lot of people, and women especially, you kind of go through stages of, accepting yourself and then looking at yourself in the mirror and pinching all your little spots. But it's definitely like taken me a good bit of time to feel that you don't have to look a certain way or be a certain size to do the thing that you want.
And it's talking about the time, taking time. You took time to come from that space where you weren't happy with how you looked, in kind of inverted commas, and that actually prevented you from kind of going down the route that you wanted to go down. Even from some of us don't know what we want to do when we're 18, but you did, but kind of pulled back from it. You then kind of went into a corporate world. Why did you leave the corporate world, and kind of why was it the personal training route that you wanted to go down?
So in the corporate job that I had, I kind of knew quite early on that it didn't sit well with me, but I wasn't really sure at that point why I was kind of uneasy with it. And as I kind of got further into the job, I was progressing well. I'd gotten a couple of promotions. The paycheck was good, it was that kind of secure, pensionable job that everyone goes after. And I was still struggling with the fact that I didn't really enjoy it. And we had to do this thing one day. It was like a team bonding exercise where you had to do an assessment, and you were told like kind of what your personality traits were, and you were given a color, and you had to stand on a wheel that showed like what color you were and then what color your team were. It was kind of one of them kind of things. And I remember getting my color, and first of all being surprised at what it was, and then second of all looking up and seeing that all of my team were on the really far side of the circle. And I just felt it really kind of landed with me then that I felt in myself I was a bit different, and the traits that I had didn't really match what the traits were needed for the company. I could push myself to be like them, but it wasn't inherently who I was. And then over time, there had been a few people that I had looked up to in the company, and the more that I saw of them, the more I realized I didn't really want to turn into those kind of people. I felt like my values were kind of going this way, whereas the company wanted me to go this way, if that makes sense. There had been a couple of people who were treated badly along the way, and I didn't really agree with that. And I think I remember one day there was a woman that I knew well in the company, and she kind of said to me around 5:30, if I leave by 6:30 today, I should get home in time to see my kids before they go to bed. And I just remember, and she had quite a commute to go, and I remember thinking at that point that if I was to stay with this kind of company, I would more or less have to be based in Dublin. And first of all, I didn't really want that, and then second of all, I didn't really want a life where I was only getting to see my children for 10 minutes before they went to bed. It just wasn't for me. I suppose at that time, like, working from home wasn't a thing. Like, nobody did it, and it wasn't on any company's radar to allow it. But even if it was, I don't think it would have been for me long term. And the personal training thing then kind of came about because I had been thinking about going back to do sports science, and the thought of doing a 4-year course just didn't appeal to me at the time. And it's pretty expensive, and I, like, being honest, just didn't have the money for it. So I thought, first of all, let's try the personal training. I do really enjoy one-to-one or group contact in person, and I really liked the idea of being able to help somebody achieve things that improve their health, as opposed to being with a company and just trying to improve the bottom line.
I think there's a lot in that, even from the question that the story at the very start, where it was about the principal part of thing, and then having the guts to make that jump over to something that you were passionate about. And like, it does take guts, and it's scary. And even to this day, running the gym advisors and running your own business like yourself, there's times during the day where you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. There's a lot of oh shit, what have I done moments, but I definitely didn't jump. I would have qualified as a personal trainer in June of 2018, I think, or May of 2018, and I worked for a good year more doing personal training as a kind of a side gig with the job. So my days looked like, and I also in this time changed companies because I wasn't still sure at that time if it was just the company I was with that I wasn't enamored with, or if it was the industry in total. So I decided, feck it, I'll try and work with another company and just like make sure what I'm doing is right. So my days would have looked like I would have started in the gym that I got a job in at 6 in the morning. So I would have had 2 clients from 6 to 7 and 7 to 8. Then I'd have ran into the changing rooms as quickly as I could to get changed, grab a coffee at the reception of the gym, leg it to my car, get to the office for hopefully 9 o'clock, sometimes a little bit after, which my boss was not very happy with. I'd be there until 5:30, and then I had to get back to the gym for 6 p.m. and I'd work until 10. And I did that Monday to Thursday. Friday I just had a 9 to 5:30 job, and then Saturdays I would have done 7 a.m. to 12 or something like that in the gym again. So I did that for a good 9-10 months before I got the courage to go self-employed on my own. So I would definitely say it wasn't a jump. It was more of like a gradual roll kind of into the industry, because it was like what you said, it was scary to think that you'd be doing something all on your own, and that, you know, if I wasn't good at it, you know, I wasn't going to get a paycheck, you know, or like, you know, it was just all up to you. And that was kind of freaky, given that I had been an employee for the rest of my life, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, it's probably the best way to do it. Is to kind of take that step gradually. And to be honest with you, you've prepared yourself for the long days that come with being in the gym and personal trainer and everything like that. So if nothing else, you've learned, or if anything, you've kind of added to your repertoire of being able to do those long days without totally collapsing.
I wouldn't say that now, to be honest, because there was a few days there where I was like, Jesus Christ, these days are very long. I don't know if that, like, I would have had a time there at one point where I thought to myself, if I'm trying to help people improve their health, but yet I'm working these ridiculously crazy hours, I'm not really a good person to be asking, you know, how do you improve your health? So I think that was kind of one of the reasons why I decided I needed to, you know, make this switch, because after, I don't know, 7-8 months, it was really impacting my health. I didn't notice it, I suppose, as much in terms of physical health, but I definitely noticed it in terms of mental health, and social health as well, because I was spending so many hours working, I didn't really have time for anything or anyone else. Like, I'm from Tipperary, so I would try once a month to get home to see my family. But because I was working Saturdays, like, that just didn't happen for, I would say, about 4 months at one point, which was just, you know, ridiculous. Like, that, it just wasn't good for me. So I would definitely say along the way there was some bumpy points where I kind of had to rejig my thought process to make sure that I was looking after myself as well as my new career.
Yeah, and look, when I say you're training yourself for that, it's a fixed period that you're doing it for, a short enough period that you're doing it for.
Yeah.
And like you said, you've had the compassion to yourself to know that this isn't a long-term thing, or I can't do this, so I have to make a decision. And luckily for us in the industry, you kind of chose the fitness side of things because it seemed to be what you loved, you know. I often talk about the first time we talk to people who are on the podcast about coming on the Gym Advisors, and I know quite quickly generally if they're a good fit for what we're doing. And for you, it was absolutely no different. We had a bit of crack. We talked about kind of our thoughts on the industry. We kind of shared similar things. One of those is kind of your approach to diets and diet culture. And even if I go here to your Instagram bio, you describe yourself as the anti-diet PT. Can
Yeah.
you tell me what that means and why it's kind of so important to you?
Yeah, I can. I suppose the first thing to maybe talk about would be what the anti-diet culture is, or I suppose what diet culture is first of all. And basically, diet culture is probably something that we've all grown up with since we were small and didn't even realize it was part of us. Um, Generally, what it means is that we equate thinness to health or kind of a moral superiority. And you kind of inherently tie your self-worth to your physical appearance. So for most people, growing up, we will have thought that being thin is the absolute be all and end all, and that in order to be happy or in order to be successful or to find love, um, that we need to kind of embody this kind of thin ideal that you see in, I suppose, magazines when you were younger and on Instagram and TikTok and that kind of thing now. But generally, I think what we'll have found as we grow up is that no matter how many diets you do, it doesn't actually seem to improve your health in a long term scenario. You generally don't keep off the weight long term. I think there's a statistic that says that something like 95 to 98% of diets fail. Um, and that's generally because we're taught how to diet, but we're not really taught how to eat for nourishment or about how to listen to our body's hunger and satiety signals. So like if you think during the day, like you probably don't realize you're hungry until your stomach is like talking to you, or until you snap at somebody for something that you shouldn't have and you realize, fuck it, I'm hungry and I need to get something into me ASAP. But at that point, you're kind of over hungry. You've let things go on too far. So, and in some instances, it's a case that we choose not to listen to our hunger cues because we're on this fixed calorie diet, or we think that we shouldn't be eating at that time, or in some cases we're nearly embarrassed to eat because other people aren't eating or other people don't seem to be hungry, and you kind of nearly think that you're not doing things right if your eating habits need to look different to somebody else's. So there's a lot of like psychological factors that go into diet culture that actually when you look at your total health, maybe you've lost some weight, but it generally comes at the expense of your relationship with food and your relationship with your body image. And I've definitely seen that myself, as I kind of said about my story of not doing sports science because I thought I was fat. And I've seen it with, friends and family. I've seen it with PT clients. And I kind of thought to myself in the last year or two that I really can't go on kind of putting weight loss as my number one thing that I do as a personal trainer, when really I'm way more focused on helping people achieve their total health. And I don't think that diets do that. I think there's a lot more ways that we can be healthy and achieve health without being super focused on our physical appearance first. And the other side of diet culture is that it nearly demonizes or ostracizes people who don't look a certain way. So first of all, you have yourself trying to become this thin person, but if you're not that, if you don't look like that, you do get kind of looks on the road, or you feel that people think of you differently. And in some cases you'll see some kind of nasty people who'll actually go and take that a step further and bully people for looking different. I definitely experienced that in school, and I know other people who would have as well. And that kind of shaming of people because they look different definitely doesn't help them become healthier, and it definitely doesn't encourage them to to create healthier behaviors if that's what they need. I was reading a few studies on this recently because I'm trying to understand a little bit more about it. And I came across a study that said, and I wrote it down because I'm not good at remembering things off the top of my head. But it said that a third to three quarters of people who are termed obese are actually metabolically healthy, meaning that they don't have any cholesterol issues, they don't have insulin resistance or blood pressure issues. But on the flip side of that, there's about a quarter of people who wouldn't be deemed overweight that are metabolically unhealthy and do have those issues. So by only focusing on physical appearance, you're neglecting all of the other behaviors that go into that kind of healthy equation, I suppose. And you're not thinking about you're only thinking about physical appearance and equating that to health, and you're not thinking of any of the other behaviors that are behind it.
And of those studies, Ellen, I know you've been looking, is there any kind of longer term things that we can kind of take from this that aren't maybe just snapshots in time?
Yeah, there was one that I found, it was a 2016 study, and I can send you the article that I found it in afterwards if you want to share it with listeners. So it was a 2016 study done where they followed, I think it was something like 19 participants over 10 to 15 years of their life. And what it showed was that unfit, skinny people were twice as likely to come down with diabetes as metabolically healthy fat people.
Oh wow! Because we would diabetes would be the one that we would think is just, it's based on kind of the external that we look at. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it was really cool. I've been trying to get a little bit more educated on it, and there is a lot of research out there that kind of does promote the anti-diet movement. I think it's a lot more inclusive as well, because it doesn't stigmatize anyone for looking a certain way, but it does more get to the root on creating healthy behaviors and taking the focus away from what people actually look like and expecting us all to look one particular way.
Yeah, like I think I give social media a massive amount of stick, particularly on this podcast, because it's free reign. But this isn't a problem that has started with social media. You mentioned them earlier on, magazines that would have been there years ago. Celebrities get plastered across them because they've gained 10 pounds, they've lost 10 pounds, and if they could look terrible skinny, but that's a bad way of putting it, but they get a lot of credit for losing weight rather than for any bit of gaining weight and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of where I would see it starting. It obviously goes way back to expectations being put on, particularly on women. It's a massive societal thing as well. But let's kind of take it down into the micro then. And when someone comes to you, because you did mention earlier on that there was the kind of internal war that we have with ourselves, and we can kind of feel shame, we can kind of feel embarrassed, but then there's the kind of external stigma that's in society. When someone comes to you, how do you deal with that? Is it a matter of just kind of dealing with that individual's problems and then talking through and trying to kind of spread the word of this kind of anti-diet culture? Because but when someone's with you there and then, all you can do is focus on that individual.
Yeah, so generally, I've definitely found in the last year or so that I haven't had that many people who've come to me with the sole purpose of losing weight, or I haven't really had that many people who are like Ibiza 2020, or that they have events coming up that they want to lose weight for, and I definitely in a long time haven't heard anyone kind of say, I want to lose 7 stone by the summer, anything like that. A lot more people do seem to come, first of all, to improve something about their health, and second of all, maybe look for some kind of physical changes. So if somebody comes to me and their kind of primary concern is their weight, I will first of all have a consultation with them where we sit down and we explore why they feel that their weight isn't acceptable to them, and what they would hope to feel differently about if they lost the weight, or like, you know, what kind of intrinsic feelings that they want to achieve. And I think when you kind of bring it down to what people want to feel, it kind of changes the narrative a little bit, because then they're more in tune to looking out for those changing in feelings, as opposed to just having a look at the scales. And the scales is probably another thing that I've tried to move away from a good bit in the last little while. I definitely would have been one of those PTs and one of those people who would have asked clients to step on the scales and do measurements and do pictures and all of that. But I've been trying to get away from that in the last little while, and one of the primary reasons for that was a kind of something that I realized myself. Probably, I don't know, I'm so bad to go back on timelines, but I think it was about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago. I was still quite new to being a PT, but I was carrying a bit of extra weight, I suppose, myself, in that I had been working the 2 jobs for a long time, which meant that I'd less chance to do proper cooking, I'd less chance for proper sleep, and I started to feel quite insecure in that I needed to look a certain way to be seen as a good personal trainer. And I took that to the extreme where I would have micromanaged all of my food through my fitness pal every single day of the week, not missing a single, you know, drop of oil in the pan. And I got to a stage one day where I think I wanted to know if I had enough calories to eat an apple. Like I was starving and been on my feet all day, and I was trying to ask an app to know if it was okay for me to eat a fucking apple. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse in your podcast. I'm sorry if
okay.
I on that. But I kind of just thought at that point, like, Jesus, I've taken this way too far. And if I can do that to myself when I'm supposed to be the health and fitness professional, what kind of effect is this having on people who I've told to work in this way? And if they do feel bad, do they feel okay in coming in and saying it to me? Because, you know, you kind of have that relationship sometimes in a personal training capacity where you know, you're the coach, they're the client, and they don't want to let you down. And I just thought I needed to get away from all of that. So now if people come to me and they say that they would have a poor relationship with food, I will try to get them to look at things like, you know, increasing their vegetable consumption each day, looking at one meal and seeing how hungry they were before the meal, how did what did that hunger feel like, how full were they afterwards, did they enjoy the meal? And we try to look at things way more around the actual behaviors and sensations that you feel, as opposed to thinking about what kind of calories or macronutrients are on the plate. Now, I do still give people advice on increasing protein intake, or making sure that they have carbohydrates and fats as part of their diet, and giving them some nutritional guidance. But I kind of would do that in a softer way now than I would have maybe when I started becoming a PT. I also would look at things like sleep, making sure that people are getting enough of it per night. And I have a couple of assessment forms where people can kind of figure out what is maybe hindering their sleep, and we try to create a better sleep ritual or pattern to kind of get them into better habits. I look at things like water consumption. I try to get people to do like a mindful walk maybe once a week, where they don't have headphones in or anything. They just kind of go and, you know, leisurely go for a walk and get away from the desk. They would be some of the things that we concentrate on that aren't weight focused. And then obviously just trying to get the workouts that we have planned in throughout the week as well. And those workouts are generally more focused on strength, and a little bit of cardio would be the kind of balance that I'd work on.
You've said a lot there, but the thing that really jumped out at me is how Black Mirror it sounds when you're looking how many calories you can have for like for an apple, and you're asking an app for it. Like, it's insane. But yeah, look, it does, like, I think a lot of this is around reframing. I think you've obviously seen some progress because people aren't necessarily coming to you because, oh, I want to lose X amount of weight or whatever. There's a lot that we can do, and we're trying to do on the site to reframe why we exercise. It's not you're not necessarily you're not a hamster on a wheel. You don't necessarily need to burn X amount of calories and just go nowhere. That you can set yourself goals around all sorts of things, whether it's how much you lift or hiking a mountain or whatever it is. There's so much that we can do as an industry, as a society, that makes exercise more enjoyable and not solely focused on, I want to lose X amount of weight, I want to burn X amount of calories or whatever, you know. So you said that you kind of have seen progress, or I've kind of assumed that you've said that you've seen some progress because people are coming to you. But in terms of the industry, in terms of social media, do you reckon we're making progress?
Yeah, I do. I think there has been a huge amount of change that has happened in the last few years. I don't know personally if that's just because I'm more aware of other, I suppose, methods or strategies that are out there now or not. But there's definitely a lot of people who are trying to push the intuitive eating message a lot more. There are groups out there on promoting a weight neutral approach. There's even a group in England called Fitness Professionals Against Weight Stigma. I think that's FPAWS, I think, is the acronym for them. They have a group on Facebook, and they're a community that are trying to make changes to the education fitness professionals get, to include more of a weight neutral approach. So I think there's a lot of good coming through, but the thing with social media is that you are the owner of your feed and you are the creator of your feed. So unless you actively go and look for different messages, you're not going to see them. You're only going to see the things that you look at. So if I'm always looking at the Gym Advisors page, which of course I am, I'm only going to see your page. You know what I mean? Like if I'm only looking at inspo, or what you call them, influencers who just like stand and, you know, put a motivational quote at the bottom and like stick their arse out, like that's all you're going to see. So you have to like make a bit of an effort, I think, first of all, in terms of social media, to look for other accounts to follow that make your feed a bit more of a positive place to be.
Yeah, and there's a kind of a balance there as well. We've seen, like, obviously this is an important topic, important subject, but like look at America, look at even Ireland in certain circumstances. When you only have one kind of type of content that you look at, Facebook, Instagram, they just constantly show you more and more and more, and you get more extreme, and you kind of end up down a rabbit hole. So there's definitely ways, there's definitely responsibility on yourself, because of obviously to kind of look for a bit more external point of view and counterpoints and stuff, to make sure that you're not just seeing the one thing. And if you are seeing the one thing, just take that conscious effort to look for something else, and maybe look for something that's even a little bit better than what you're looking at.
Yeah, I think as well on that point though, like we can start to be a little bit more critical of what we're looking at as well, to kind of, you know, ask ourselves the question, is this helping me or making me feel worse? Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, like, you have no obligation to stay following something that doesn't serve you. So, you know, just maybe take a little bit of time away from it, if that's putting it on mute, or, you know, just hiding it off your feed for a little while and then come back to it if you want to later. But you can definitely just experiment with things that'll make you feel a little bit better, as opposed to, you know, having to be black or white about a situation.
100%. There's always worlds of grey in society and in the world, whatever. So look, starting to finish up here. One thing that I did find in my research for this podcast that I sometimes do, you released a winter survival guide, and I've already printed it off myself. I'm going to be using it because there's definitely some really handy things in there. But instead of me butchering it, can you tell people a little bit about it?
Yeah, I can. So I created that in one of the last lockdowns before Christmas. I think everyone was just feeling quite low, and I thought it would be a good idea to have some kind of a guide that gets people to focus on self care across different parts of your health. So for your physical health, your mental, your emotional, and your social self care. So I gave some ideas within the winter self care survival guide of ways that you could improve those four areas. And essentially, what the guide kind of does is that it gives you space to pick one or two or three things for each of those elements of your health and just try to improve them over a certain period of time. So you're just picking two or three things that are either, kind of easy to you or a little bit of a stretch, and you're just trying to tick them off as you go through your weeks. And just see how it helps your overall health, as opposed to being solely focused on your weight. You're solely focused on macros, or having to get three very, very specific exercise sessions in. It was just trying to keep people consistent, but in a way that doesn't add extra stress to their lives.
No, it's class. In fairness, you call it the Winter Survival Guide. It can be used year round. It's brilliant. It really is. Particularly in these days where we're all in lockdown. But even after, even post all this, it will be useful as well. So look, I want to finish on. You'll know this. I want to finish on the barbell mission, because barbell is obviously your business kind of name. That's barbell, BARBELLE. And this can be found on your profile on the Gym Advisors, but I want to read it out for people to kind of get an idea of it. So this is what you want to achieve: to build an energetic and upbeat community who live in pursuit of the sweet spot, that magical state of feeling strong, fit, confident, and connected without sacrificing all of the crack agus ceol life has to offer. We rebel against the nonsense of living life on diets that can make us miserable, being hyper-focused on social media before and after pics, and judging our self-worth by our appearance. We aim to revolutionise the Irish approach to health and fitness by focusing on lifts, laughs, self-love, and lifestyle first, knowing that when you love how you feel, you love how you look, and not the other way around. I absolutely love that. I think anyone who's listened to this episode will know that it kind of sums you up quite well. So massive boolabus for putting that together. That's class. So look, you can be found, of course. Anyone who wants to get in touch with Ellen can find her on thegymadvisors.ie/barbell fitness, and again BARBELLE fitness. But you're also on social media, the dreaded social media, if you want to point people in that direction.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at EQ_barbell fitness, something like that. Do you know what? All of the links are on the Gym Advisors profile anyway, so you'll find them there. I have a Facebook page, which I do nothing with. I have also decided to get on Twitter now. My partner was like, no, TikTok is the new thing. TikTok. I was like, no, I actually can't. I can't go near TikTok because I will actually be just consumed by it. I've created a Twitter page. I don't know what I'm doing there. So, if you want to follow me and see ramblings, grand, but I can't promise there'll be any good content. And I think I'm on LinkedIn actually as well. So I think I'm on everything, but Instagram and the Gym Advisors website and my own website are the ones that I'd be primarily focused on.
What's the URL for the website?
It is eqbarbellfitness.com.
Perfect.
I think.
So here's a big test then. You are, of course, an affiliate for the Gym Advisors store that we have a display here behind us. Can you remember your 10% discount code?
Oh, Andy, you're putting me on the spot. I think it's Barbell Fitness 10.
Barbell 10.
Barbell 10.
It's Barbell 10. Use that and you can get yourself a 10% discount. Look, I was saying to Ellen before we kicked off here, Christmas and New Year's absolutely cleaned us out. We have a limited number of a few bits and pieces in there, but we are getting a big restock in the next week or two. So with that, make sure and check that out, and you can use that discount code. I want to finally leave you with this. If you are considering getting in touch with Ellen by any of those means, here's a short excerpt from one of the reviews that I found left on her profile earlier on. And it's just one sentence out of a big long review, and it's class. Once gyms reopened, I started commuting to meet Ellen from 50 kilometers away to get me back on a lifting program, which I did at my local gym. If that isn't a massive selling point, I can't imagine what is.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
It's
class.
either I have some kind of a blackmail hold over the girl, or she actually genuinely likes me. One of the two.
One or the other, and we leave the listener to wonder which is which.
Yeah.
Ellen, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
No bother at all. Thanks a million for having me, Andy, and I'm sure I'll be back again soon.
100%. And as always, to the rest of you, hasta la fitness, baby.